no testing happening at
Nothing's happening at
Starbase.
Starbase.
Nothing happening at Starbase.
Yes.
Well, there's a bunch of stuff happening at Starbase, but there's no testing. Larger testing like cryogenic testing or things that could close down the roadways for the foreseeable future. Closures were canceled for the 24th and the 25th of this week, so we're going to be moving on, hopefully to maybe later this week. Not 100% sure about that, but they already did some testing on booster and they've already done a bunch of testing on the ship. So it seems like the next step would be to maybe, I don't even know what the next step would be, because they have the whole deluge system. They have, the OLM is revamped. There's so many things that could happen, and we don't know the procedure for that anymore.
Yeah, in the last week, we've seen testing on Ship 25. We've seen testing on boosters 9 and 10. The orbital launch mount also got tested fully. So we've seen the deluge system, or like the new plate at the bottom. We've seen the quick disconnects, both of them working. Obviously the chopsticks are working because they lifted up booster 9 to put it on the launch mount. So it seems like it's a fully functional stage 0.
It looks like it. I mean, yeah, it seems like they're in a spot where they know more now than they did before the first launch. It seems like they've got the processes figured out. They have they've streamlined a lot of the processes because they need to be able to crank these things out. They want to launch like 2 or 3 a day at some point.
Well, wouldn't that be nice to see?
That would be insane. But I wouldn't even know what to think at that point.
It's pretty impressive to watch how the last 3 months, I guess it's been or so, since the first one, since the first orbital attempt, and all the changes, and they're coming out of this way stronger than they went into it, and it should be really interesting to see. And as is typical with SpaceX, once they do something once, they know they've got it, and they move on to the next thing. So they've already launched this once. It didn't make it to orbit, had some issues, but they've already done it once, so they know what they're doing, and now they're just moving on to the next stage, whatever that is. So fixing the orbital launch mount and all those things. So looking into the hot fire situation, which I'm not exactly sure how that's going to pan out in the end, but we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, the stage separation is going to be the most exciting part. The launch, I think they're going to be okay. I don't know. We're not 100% sure if they're going to be okay with that one, but the stage separation is going to be wild. But it's going to, I mean, if the engineers and everybody at SpaceX thinks that's the way to go, it seems like a really proper way to separate this thing, because it is freaking massive.
Yeah. Do you know if Booster 9 and Ship 25 are set up for that? I don't believe they are. I don't believe they're set up for hot separation.
Elon said something about it in a tweet, but I'm not exactly sure what he said about it or what booster or ship will be the first separation like that. So it might be, they might have already set it up, but I've seen all the pictures and the videos and things of, the booster.
I'm pretty sure,
but
I'm pretty sure it's still in development stage. I don't think that these two vehicles are designed for it.
Yeah. It seems like a new thing where they're like, ooh, that didn't work.
Well, and they'll probably want to test that at Massey's or something, right? They'll want to test a hot fire on the dome to make sure that it's not going to melt through or whatever.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a top view.
Hey, thanks for watching today. If you like SpaceX, NASA, and spaceflight, please take a second and hit the like and the subscribe button to help out the channel a little bit. And also, you get some help too, because YouTube will see that you like spaceflight content and we'll start shoveling more of that stuff your way.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe these are set up for it for sure.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, like you and I were talking before the broadcast started about the massiveness of this rocket. And how big, and I always say it, like every time I get online, I'm like, this thing's freaking huge.
Yeah.
But this shows, like, think about how big your car is and how big you are, and then look at the scale of this compared to a vehicle, like just a regular car. Yeah. It's absolutely massive. So
absolutely massive.
It's so crazy. It still blows my mind. Like like I've seen it in person, so I know how big it is. But just even seeing pictures of it, I'm like, okay, this reminds me how big, massive it is. To just think about like launching a skyscraper. They're basically launching a skyscraper to
sure.
orbit. And how do they do that? 33 Raptor engines, and that works. Like, how does that?
Fuel.
That's a lot of awful lot of fuel, awful lot of thrust, and they made it off the pad last time. So the deluge system was tested. We know that. We know the deluge system was tested. Are they going to? Do you think they're going to do a static fire with the deluge system to test this deluge and the static fire at the same time?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just thinking about that before we went on as well. Yeah, I think that every static fire from a booster from now on will have the deluge running.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's ongoing testing as well as protection of the launch mount long term. As long as obviously the deluge system works and it doesn't completely rip it apart like it did the concrete last time.
Right. So to skip real quick back to how big this thing is. Rocket Future, Andrew C. at the Rocket Future on Twitter, you can see a person. This is like a quarter of the way up this thing.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful shot.
What a great shot.
Yeah. And I don't even understand how these people have the nerve to get into this lift, for one, because I'm afraid of heights. But two, and then they have to do like one of the world's most complicated engineering feats. So they have the pressure of like, oh yeah, I'm 150 feet off the ground or whatever. Mm-hmm. And also I have to do these things that are crucial to get this thing off the ground and not blow up. So
yeah, obviously that's the Rocket Garden. I'm not sure exactly what ship he's working on. My guess is it's Booster 10. I don't know why they would be having anybody up on sort of one of the retired boosters, if you will.
Yeah.
My guess is that's Booster 10, but I haven't confirmed that. We just saw that picture just before we got on.
Yeah. Shout out to anybody that goes up in these things, and shout out to Andrew C. from the Rocket Future for taking beautiful shots repeatedly at Starbase. So at the Rocket Future on Twitter, go follow him. Awesome dude, and also awesome shots. Booster 9, like we said, was lifted up onto the launch mount. What a beautiful shot too. Like, how cool is this?
Yeah, gorgeous.
That they got the shot from below and also all the stars like above in the sky. It's such a cool shot. And the lighting on the launch mount, it makes it look just illuminated and amazing. And chopstick, as you said before, they work, which is great. Apparently they seem to be working fine. As you know, can you notice there's some cladding at the bottom of the launch tower too? See that it looks like there's some reinforcements at
for sure. Yeah.
At the tower. It looks like
they figured that was always the plan, actually, was to clad that entire tower in something. Whether it was going to be as protective as this is, I don't know, but this certainly seems to be protective. I love this shot because it looks like there's camo drawn all over the Starship because of the shadows.
I didn't even notice that.
Booster, I should say. It looks like it looks really, really futuristic.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. Wow.
Yeah.
And then there's another one they have from a little bit different angle. But yeah, still the Texas night sky, which is absolutely beautiful. That's one thing that I can say about my time down there is that you could see all the stars.
Oh yeah.
Everything. Like because it was 25 miles away from Brownsville and everything else, you could look up and you could see everything. I would spend some nights down there just to get away from the lights of the city. And I would just go to the beach late at night, just hang out, look at the rocket, and just stare up at the stars. I would just I didn't really lay on the sand because it's, you get sand everywhere. And of course it's just like Anakin knows
sand
as good as anybody.
Everywhere.
It gets everywhere. And it's coarse.
It's coarse.
So I would lay on my car like late at night, look up at the sky, and just kind of look over like, oh yeah, there's a big rocket there too. But it's a beautiful place. And it's a great place to launch a rocket too. So yeah, what a great shot though. We're kind of getting into the beauty of all of this as well, because we're like, it's such a cool thing that Starship is going to be capable of in the future, bringing
Yeah.
huge loads to space, and it's going to be wild what happens in the
I'm not sure
next
whether it's
few
actually going
weeks
to
even.
happen. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but once they've got this thing down pat and they're launching right, left, and center, I hope that they put some attention to the aesthetics of it all.
Oh,
Certainly, it's a
okay.
beautiful ship, all stainless steel and pretty, but it would be nice if we started seeing that science fiction future at some point, right? Once they're launching 100 of these a month or whatever they want to do, they start to look into it and go, okay, how can we make this not only functional but look really awesome as well? Because that's one thing that society has lost, I think, in the last 30 years or so, is that aesthetics of things. We're so concerned about making things as cheap as possible that we've sort of made it as industrial as possible as well. It would be nice to get back to those sort of aesthetic values of the 50s, where you've got the streamlining, or the 70s with the really cool geometric shapes and whatnot. It'd be cool to see that come back
Oh, I
a
didn't
little
even
bit
think about
in the
that.
future.
So do you think they would? Do you think they would paint the whole rocket, or do you think they would just slap a logo on it? Or how are you feeling about this?
I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what it is. But
Okay.
I mean, maybe the uh, maybe the cladding over some of the plumbing on the booster gets a little bit of a treatment where it's a little bit smoother or a little more aerodynamic or
Oh,
something like
okay.
that, as opposed to sort of the sort of square, bulky look that we've got now. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not responsible for that. If they want me to be responsible for it, I'm available. But but for the moment, I hadn't put too much thought into it.
Yeah. No, that sounds awesome, and I
Even
know.
just going back to we were discussing them putting the cladding up the tower, right?
Yeah.
It's in all the drawings, but they never did it.
Right.
Little things like that are even one step closer, right? Plus, we're talking about Starbase. He wants to build a city there, right?
Yeah.
That to support all the launches and construction and whatnot's going on down there in development. It'd be nice to see Starbase become a little bit more aesthetic than Factory.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that'd be amazing. Make it a tourist destination. You
For
know,
sure.
I mean, right
Yeah.
now it is, but it's like you gotta really be into this stuff to go down there.
Yeah.
Like you got to sacrifice a little bit to get down there. So, yeah, I think it's something. Kennedy Space Center. It's like Disney. Like
A little bit.
people go there just to go see rockets and stuff that are
Yeah.
interested in space flight and engineering, and maybe just like the unknown. People are like, hey, this is a giant rocket, or hey, this is what Saturn does, or whatever. There's engineering and science all over the place down there.
Hmm.
So the I think this would be a really cool thing. Have tours of it, when they're not actually launching, or when they're not testing. Have a guided tour of the facility or something like that. I don't know if
Yeah.
ITAR would allow that, but you could have a guided tour along the road and show people, hey, this bay does this. We're building this here. Blah blah blah. It would also be really cool if they could even do that on their socials. Instead of having people down there in person, it'd be really neat if Elon did a tour of everything like he did with Tim, the Everyday Astronaut, but
Hmm.
he does it like for a produced video for SpaceX, which would be really cool, and to show like, hey, this is what we do here now, but we want to do this here too. That would be really interesting to see too. Or maybe
Absolutely.
have like a manager or something. It doesn't have to be Elon, but Elon would get the most
No, it has to
views.
be Elon.
Yeah.
Or
I
one
think
of his clones.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Gwen could do it. That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not doing anything, right?
Yeah. Gwen's not doing anything. She's
You
not.
don't mind coming out and doing a tour for regular folk?
Yeah. She's not
Yeah.
building the future over there, right? Yeah.
Right.
Not at all. Yeah. So so the future Starbase looks pretty bright. In the next few, I don't know. So we were talking about the processes before and how they've streamlined everything, but do you think they've streamlined it to like to a better place where they could launch this in August? I reached out to a few people on or not on Facebook, but on YouTube and on Twitter and a little bit on Discord, and here's one person, Old Gamer Noob on YouTube, said the way the ship was tested with an engine static fire right off the bat, and with the booster now having already been fully filled with cryogenic liquids, I'd venture they'll unify some tests and make quick work of things. The FAA will be the main holdup this time, I think. So I have to agree that I think the FAA is going to be the last step, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show that. There it is right there. Old Gamer Noob.
Yeah, I believe I'm on record several places. Back when the first launch happened and we saw all the damage, I said the weekend of August 19th for a launch, and
Okay.
I still stand on that. I think we're still go on that a go on that. If the FAA gave them permission today, I think they could probably attempt the launch in a week. I think that they're at that stage. They need to static fire. They've already static fired 25 and they were happy. They didn't replace any Raptors and whatnot.
Yep.
They need to static fire 9, booster 9,
Yep.
and I think that they could be ready to go right after that, as long as everything was operating as it was. I think the holdup again will be, as you say, the FAA. I think there was a lot of damage to the compound, as well as the a lot of concrete spread over the area around the launch site. So I think that there's probably some concern there that they'll want to address and get answered. And then they're likely doing that already from the day it launched. I'm sure they've been talking to them and giving them reports on everything they're doing to repair things and whatnot and prevent it from happening again in the future. So I don't think it's going to be as long a wait for the FAA to secure this, but I think it's just a matter of time. But yeah, I think that a little less than a month when we'll be launching this thing.
Wow. Yeah,
I stay by it. I stand by it.
I think you're pretty right. I'm gonna venture to say it's gonna be a little bit later, maybe like September-ish, maybe. But Elon, I mean, even Elon was like, yeah, middle of August. We can be ready by the middle of August. And like you said, they've been talking to the FAA probably within hours of the last launch, within probably minutes within the last launch. Like the FAA was probably on the horn, like, hey, what just happened, buddy? That just blew everything out. So they're they had these steps in place before they launched the first one. And
there's been lots of rockets over the years. Lots of rockets over the years that have blown up on the launch pad.
Yep.
Causing all kinds of damage.
Yep.
This is just another one.
Yep.
And this didn't blow up the launch pad; it blew up the launch pad. But same sort of deal, same kind of damage, probably. I would imagine. The only difference being that the tanks for all the cryogenic fluids and stuff were a little bit closer at the launch site than they are in the Cape, I believe. But so that's probably the big difference here. I think that it's just a matter of time to get past these things, but it's happened before, and you know what? They expected it to blow up in the sky. They didn't expect it to get off the launch pad. So, and the FAA knew that. So it's just a matter of satisfying them, and I think that won't be hard at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're showing them all the data that they get as they get it. They're showing them how they're mitigating the problems that were on the pad. Yeah. And I think they'll just it'll breathe, as much as they can, they'll breeze through this, and then they'll be ready to launch. Now, if the water deluge system and the static fires work perfectly the first time, they might do like a 7 static fire, like a 7 engine. They might, and then a 14 or whatever, and then go to 21, then be like, well, can't static fire everything. So now we're going to launch it. And then they'll stack it up and do a fill test, probably on both the rocket, or the ship and the booster, maybe.
Likely,
and then launch it up one more time just to make sure all the systems work. And then
did they do a static fire with ship 24 on top of 8?
I don't think so. No,
I don't think they did.
Yeah, they were
I'm surprised they don't do that, to be honest.
I kind of am, but I totally understand why they don't. Um, because if they do a static fire again, one, it's almost like they're wasting time, I think, because they've already done it. They've already tested those engines and they've already tested all the systems. The only system that they wouldn't be able to test without the ship on top was like, is the ship going to fall off the booster?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, but that was part of the problem, right? Is that it didn't release,
Yeah.
right? So is there anything to be seen, observed from a static fire, and how those lock pins work, um, while
Right.
it's in place? I would like to see that. And they did it. They've already launched this once, right? We talked
Yep.
about this earlier. SpaceX is very happy doing things once, having it work, and moving on and saying that's the way we're going to do it every time.
Yep.
They've only really landed one ship successfully,
Oh
right?
yeah, you're
But
right.
they moved on, right? They immediately move on and say, "We did it. We're
We
good.
did it.
Let's move on."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're going to need to prove that again, in my mind, but not in their minds, apparently.
Yeah.
So they've already launched this ship once. In their minds, is everything cool? Let's just go for it. Do they put 25 on top of 9 and then static fire and then launch?
Ooh. I don't think so.
Right?
I don't think they need to.
You, but as opposed to, as opposed to static firing 9 on its own.
Ooh, okay.
Like, do
So
they
that's
just
different.
jump to the launch, basically?
Just well, okay. So I think this could be an issue because if they static fire with the ship on top of the booster, could the ship get rattled, move out of place? They might have to readjust it,
Well,
which is
that's the whole
better.
point of
Which is
doing it.
right, which is better than when it's in the air.
Yeah. I think that's
Um,
the whole point of static firing with the ship on top, is to see that
that would
stuff.
make sense. Yeah, that would
Yeah.
make 100% sense. Will SpaceX do that? Probably not, because they're just like, well, it worked last time. We didn't do it last
Yeah.
time, and it seemed to work.
I don't know. I'm leaning more towards them not static firing 9 before the ship's on top. Static firing it once and then launching.
Oh, like a 20 something odd engine static fire, maybe,
Yeah, something like
with the
that.
ship on top, and it's like, hey, it didn't fall
And
off.
saying
Let's go,
everything
guys.
looks cool. Let's launch tomorrow. Yep.
That makes
Which
more
is
sense.
the standard process for a Falcon launch as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
They put it on the thing, they static fire, and then the next day or two they launch.
yeah. So the ship would kind of be something like like a fairing or something on a Falcon
Yeah.
rocket, just like
Yeah.
same thing, just a huge fairing.
It's a second
Just-
stage, right?
Yeah, second stage,
Yeah.
gigantic second stage. So, I mean, that would make sense that they do that.
I think that's where they want to get to. I think
Yeah,
that's where you have
it
to
would.
get to
It,
eventually.
it skips what, like a week and a half of testing,
Mhm.
because they do a static fire, then they like have to close down the roads. You have to get the data from that static fire, wait about 3 days or so, refuel it. That makes way more sense. Way more sense. Will they do it for this one?
Yeah, I was about to say, if not this one, then the next one. I bet they try and do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would love them. I didn't even think about that until you just said that. So my mind's going crazy. But it seems like they're just like straight through all these tests. Like it just happened real quick. They already had the booster. They already shipped it.
Yeah, I mean,
Everything is being tested at Massey's beforehand. Everything's getting ready to roll. Like,
I don't remember when it was that. Yeah, I don't remember when it was that my fear went away that the ship was going to implode when they were doing a cryo test. Probably 6, 7, maybe, or not 7, but maybe ship 8. Is when I started to think, okay, this thing's gonna actually not going to implode and it's going to work. And it boggles my mind that we're talking about 4 millimeters or 5 millimeters of stainless steel holding all this cryogenic fluid in place.
yeah,
But at least I feel confident that it's not going to implode.
that's
Of course, speaking of
huge.
implosions, the test ship 27, you can see the top dome of that imploded after the last testing. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But
that is interesting.
They obviously were testing that to failure. They
Right.
wanted that to happen.
Yeah.
I think an implosion is better than an explosion in that case. So
Yep.
I think they're probably quite happy with the results of that.
Yep. To the
Whatever they were
scrapyard.
testing. Yeah, whatever they were testing.
Yep.
New steel or new systems or whatever happened to be.
Yeah. I think they're, yeah. And if they move past that, they'll have ship 28, ship 29. I don't even know how many ships are down there now. I've lost count of which ships are down there and like which boosters are like readily available, because
Yeah.
I'm focusing on the ship that's going to launch, and the other stuff that's happening. It's super important, but also like it's off there somewhere. And I think kind of
Mhm.
that's where everybody else is at too, is that this is an amazing feat that will happen. Like you said, ship 10, ship 10 had, or not ship 10, but booster. They're doing
Booster
all
10.
sorts of boosters and ships and testing everything. It's like, how can I keep track of everything?
Yeah.
And I'll leave
They
that to
probably have
SpaceX.
an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest with you. They're probably
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They're fine. They're
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
I know that they're building ship 30 right now. I believe they're
It's insane.
stacking that. So,
Yeah.
and it looks pretty slick. Like
Okay.
it's starting to really look like they know what they're doing as far as the tiles go and all of that. It just sort of happens now, and it's got the Pez dispenser in it, and who knows? Maybe they're expecting ship 30 to take some Starlinks with it.
That would be insane. Even,
I think we need
go
to
ahead.
keep thinking that they're moving forward, right? We need to keep
Yeah.
thinking that they're thinking, what's the next step? This next ship's going to make it to orbit. So next one after that, why don't we throw some Starlinks up?
May as well. I mean, that makes, I mean, they have to move forward with the Starlink program
Yep.
as fast as possible. They need to make money, and getting X amount, what is it, like 10, I think at this time for the
Yeah, it
regular like
wasn't very
Falcon 9.
many. 9 or
Yeah.
10, yeah.
Yeah, something like that for a Falcon launch. Like they're like kind of throwing away money at this point when they could
Mhm.
get like 20 or 30 in a Starship,
For sure.
So just one Starship launch, even if it's an expendable Starship, which is probably going to happen for the next, 10 Starships, you know, um, then at least get some Starlinks up there and, make the money back from the Starship launch.
Yep.
So yeah, make that money back, fund Starship, and just keep going with it. And that's how they're going to fund the Starship program going forward, is I think with the Starlink launches. And they also have some customers like at bay, like just ready to launch on this thing
Mhm.
once it's ready to go.
Once it's
Um,
proven.
yeah, once it's proven, and they know that they can get satellites into orbit, they know they can get heavy,
Yeah.
they need a heavy lift rocket to get some stuff up there.
I wonder if we start to see satellite companies building flat satellites. That could be just Pez dispensed, if you will.
Yeah.
As opposed to the traditional box shape satellite, whether they start to compress them and make them fit out that door.
That's
I
a
wonder,
good idea.
and maybe they can assemble themselves once they're launched or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the solar panels roll out and whatnot.
Sort of like how the James Webb Telescope, they unfurled it. And,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly
Yeah.
like that. It would certainly make everything less complicated, and you could put 15 Starlink and 3 regular satellites and this, that, and the other, just sort of stack them in order in the Starship and keep launching them out as you need to.
That'd be incredible. I'm trying to find at this point. Remember, they had like a or they had a Starship where the front opened like this. I was trying to find that graphic, but I can't find
That
it.
was what's in my head, right? I'm thinking, I wonder if that even makes sense anymore.
I don't know if it will.
Unless you're perhaps collecting an old satellite to fix it or just to get rid of space junk or something like that. I wonder if that even makes sense anymore, whether the Pez dispenser is the way the future for that sort of thing. Because how big of a satellite do you really need to launch these days with micro everything, right?
Yeah.
This thing, there's still going to be probably 6 meters wide, I would imagine at the very least.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I don't know how tall the Pez dispenser is, but it's probably a meter at least, if not more.
Yeah.
So 6 meters by 1 meter, and then unfurls to whatever size you need. I don't know that you need a satellite larger than that these days.
Yeah. I mean, everything's smaller now. You
Yeah.
can. I mean, you have the world's
You can do
knowledge in your
so
hand.
much in these box satellites they're sending up.
And the CubeSats and everything.
CubeSats, yeah. That's what I meant to say.
Same thing. They're a box. Yeah, so speaking of satellites, this whole Starship thing is predicated by the Falcon Heavy launch. So there's a readiness review happen for a target of Wednesday, July 26th for Falcon Heavy's launch of the Hughes Connect Jupiter 3 Echo Star 14 satellite. Why do they make these names so long?
You got enough names in
Come
there?
on, man. Just can somebody, I mean,
long and short of it, it's a communication satellite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a communication satellite. It's going to be the heaviest geostationary satellite ever launched at just over 9 metric tons.
Wow. Do we know what size it is? Probably not.
No, I don't think they gave us any
but
sort
it fits
of
inside it fits inside the basically 4 meter wide. I guess it's probably 5 meter wide fairing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's quite large, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's 9 metric tons. The thing is like 9 tons for a satellite. What is in there? Like
and this is supposed to be sort of the upgraded, all new technology, micro technology version of these types of satellites, right? This is sort of obviously the state of the art communication satellite. Interesting that it's still that big.
Yeah. 9 tons. That's so a couple tons for a car?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So like 5 cars, or maybe 5 cars. Like that's how much it weighs. What's in this thing? We don't know. Like, how much technology can you pack into this thing? There's a Ka band. It's a Ka band satellite, multi-spot beam Ka band satellite based on the highly reliable SSL 1300 space-proven platform, which provides the flexibility to support a broad range of applications.
You got all this in your head, do you?
Dude, I know it. And technology advances. And I just know some stuff. It features an entirely new architecture based on broad range of technology advances, including the miniaturization of electronics. Okay. Miniaturization. 9 tons.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
They're still made of gold.
Yeah. It features an entirely new architecture based on
we did look
range.
this up.
Yeah.
The Ka band is a microwave range. So that's how it's beaming things back and forth to Earth.
Yep. So that's coming up on the 26th. That's going to be a pretty wild launch. And they say approximately 8 minutes after launch, Falcon Heavy side boosters will return to Earth and land on landing zones 1 and 2. So we're going to take a look at how that works.
That's my favorite kind of landing for these things.
Yeah.
Side by side.
It's so cool,
Just
man.
Amazing. Keep in mind, these things are 7-story buildings.
Yeah. And they just kind of gently place them back onto Earth.
Yeah. And
it's so cool.
I love how the legs open at the last second. Everything's just so well timed. They don't hover or anything. They just come down at a very consistent rate and settle down to Earth so beautifully.
Yeah.
Right on the target.
I think about these landings, and then I think about Blue Origin's landings, and I'm always afraid when Blue Origin lands its booster because it bounces. Like these go like they bounces, do like a little. These do like a little tiny shuffle and kind of like a little tiny sway, but Blue Origin's kind of like boink boink boink, and you're like,
and they kind of hover like they're not quite sure. Are we actually going to do this? And then boing, 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 boing.
Yeah. Instead of gradually, slowly, like lowering your booster back, it's like, okay, we get to like the last 7 feet or something.
And those are, I don't know the actual size, but they're probably a quarter the height of this, right? So
yeah,
it's just a completely different beast.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. Like we are literally living in the future. This is insane. This is something.
This is old hat now.
This is pretty normal.
We expect these boosters to land, no problem, tomorrow.
Yeah, if something goes wrong, we'll be like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
We'll have questions for months. But yeah, and as you can see how big they are, you can see the architecture around it. These pipes are quite large. There's little buildings. There's fuel tanks. There's some ground systems here. All
Mhm.
these things are quite large, but like you said, it's like a 7-story building. It's
Mhm.
huge. It's
These things are
gigantic.
massive.
Yeah, and they just kind of hover down,
It's
and you
amazing.
can see the top of the boosters. They have the I forgot what they're called, the engines at the top that puff engines. What are they called? I can't remember what they're called. Why can't I think of that? The puff engines. So the little puffs at the top there that guide them in
I believe they're
as
called the pss
yeah,
engines.
yeah, you can see them guiding them in, and they
Yeah.
go real fast too. Like it's
Indeed.
ridiculous how fast these systems go as you're landing a 7-story building. So yeah, absolutely insane, absolutely crazy that this is actually happening again, because Falcon Heavy's gigantic still, but 9 metric tons for a satellite. That
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, I don't know
Heavy.
it's made of lead. Thor's hammer's in there.
I wonder how many more heavy launches we have.
Falcon Heavy
Falcon Heavy.
launches.
Yeah, Falcon Heavy launches. I wonder how many more there are left, because
Yeah,
I think Starship takes it over. It's cheaper, I think, to launch a Starship than it is Falcon Heavy.
I think so too.
100% reusable.
I think 3 years. I mean,
You think
I don't
3
think
years still?
I don't think they'll retire it. I think it'll be there for specific use cases, but I don't think we're going to see as many. You know, I think once Starship is moon ready in the next few years, I think like the low Earth orbit stuff is going to be no big deal.
So 3 years, you're thinking 6 launches, something like that?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
5-6 launches, and then that's it. Like I think, unless, like I was saying, like there's certain use cases for it, but I don't see why Starship wouldn't be able to do those use cases as well.
Starship could do everything this thing can do, and 10 times more.
Yeah, and
For
is it
sure.
maybe if there's something that's like not big enough to go into a Starship, something that's like just only needs a fairing for a Falcon Heavy or a Falcon
That's
9.
why I say you just pack it in, put it in the Pez dispenser, and shoot it out as needed, and send some more Starlinks up.
I mean, SpaceX revolutionized rockets, so why wouldn't they revolutionize the delivery system as well? So,
Yeah.
And if they're like, hey, if you want to launch out a Starship, you have to build your architecture, for our device. It's kind of like your phone, like you have if you're going to build an app for a phone, you have to build it according to Apple's procedures. So if you're going to build a satellite for our rocket, you have to build according to our procedures. So
yeah, or you can use the Falcon Heavy, but it's going to cost you 3 times as much.
Yeah, planned obsolescence. Good job, SpaceX. Good job. They did it. Oh man, they did it. They're a tech company. They did it. Steve Jobs would be proud.
I can't wait for Starship to have some DLC.
Oh yeah. So, 99-cent DLCs.
All right, your satellite's up there now. In order to launch it, we're going to need another $1 million.
Yeah, we're going to need a $1 million subscription plan per month.
Per month.
Or you can buy the 1-year subscription plan for
Save
11
2
million.
months.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's it for today. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover. So what we got out of this is that maybe they'll stack a ship on top of the booster and static fire it. That's my takeaway from this, is like that might be a really interesting and exciting thing.
And we're thinking a month or 2 for a launch.
Yep.
Yep.
That'll be absolutely insane. I can't wait. I think it's going to be really cool. And I can't wait for it's going to be the most impressive thing if it actually works. So yeah, very cool, man. Yeah, same here. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Bye everybody. I don't have a goodbye screen because we're doing this on a different platform. Will. Yeah. Thanks, Neil.